This is Radio Free Hillsdale, 101.7 FM. I'm Scott Bertram, and with me right now on the phone lines is State Senator Mike Shirkey. Senator, how are you?
Good morning, Scott. Thank you so much for being so nice and kind to letting me get on your station every other week, and I'm doing fine. Thank you.
Serving Michigan's 16th State Senate District, Branch, Hillsdale, Jackson counties. You can find the senator at senatormikeshirkey.com or on Facebook. Search for Senator Mike Shirkey. Before we get to some of the issues this week, Senator, I know you've got an upcoming event you want to talk about.
Yeah, I'd like to just give a shout-out to your listeners on April 22nd at the world-famous Tibbetts Opera House in Coldwater. Representative Leutheiser and I are sponsoring a fundraiser for the Branch County and Hillsdale County Senior Centers. We've got a gal by the name of Helen Welch coming in at 7:15 p.m. on April 22nd. She does a tribute to the Carpenters. And I will tell you that anybody that's got white hair like me will absolutely love this concert, and it's a great cause. And people can find out more information if they go contact Tibbetts Opera House in Coldwater or go to their website. So I'll just be promoting that for the next 2 or 3 times we talk, Scott. But thank you for letting me do that.
Fantastic. A number of issues I want to get to this week, but I read about this last week and saw your name right in the or near the headline, I should say. Keeping track of governors' deals made without the legislature's approval. You have a bill that would give governors the ability to undo the agreements made by their predecessors and also keep track of all these deals. What's the reason behind this?
Right now, governors have it is perfectly legitimate within state law to enter into what are called MOUs, Memorandums of Understanding. These are non-contractual obligations, loosely said agreements between the state of Michigan and other entities. They could be other governments, they can be private companies, they can be within other states, etc. Oftentimes, governors use these when they either A, don't need to have appropriated funds for something and they just want to establish a relationship with another entity, or in some cases, they have trouble getting funds from the legislature to advance a project they want to do, and so they'll do it under an MOU and get creative in how to do so. Right now, Scott, nobody knows what memorandums of understanding have ever been signed by any governor. You can't find them. There's no common repository. There's no recording of them. And so the purpose of this is on a go-forward basis, requiring governors, if they do an MOU, that they have to have it filed under the Great Seal, and it's got to be searchable. And so that would then allow any subsequent governor to be able to review what's in place and, determine whether they think there's something that should be continued or something that should be discontinued. And we discovered this. We were trying to find out, this is back when Governor Granholm was in office, what agreements she made with the Canadian government regarding green energy. And lo and behold, nobody could produce the documentation. And we went through her office, we went through the state office, we went through the Canadian government. We finally had to get the documents from Great Britain. And so that just was enough indication for me to know that that's just one example, that this is just simply good governance and transparency. There's no nefarious action behind it. It's just something that we should be doing routinely, and it should be non-controversial.
Yeah, but, it just makes sense. If it's not done by lawmakers, if it's only done by the governor, that subsequent governors, not predecessors, but subsequent governors would have the ability to undo deals done by their predecessors. That just kind of makes sense, doesn't it?
It makes perfect sense. And there's nothing that says that subsequent governors can't undo deals today, except there's no place for them to go to find out what deals are in place. Right. So we're not actually creating any new ability of a governor other than enhancing it by saying, here's a file. You can put a staffer on it, and you can understand what's in place.
State Senator Mike Shirkey with us here on Radio Free Hillsdale, 101.7 FM. I'm Scott Bertram. Driving around, I would imagine many people are seeing the impact of the winter on roadways here in Hillsdale specifically. And I guess super specifically on the street in front of my house, it is ugly. And the Michigan legislature is fast-tracking $175 million in road funding for the upcoming construction season. I know that might not help me personally in front of my house, but what kind of roadways would benefit from this road funding?
Well, it would be funneled through the road funding vehicle pun intended, that we have in place today. So it goes through the Department of Transportation, and it gets sent to counties, and broken down into those factors. I want to just address, the bill we passed in 2015, which increased gas taxes and increased registration fees.
Mm-hmm.
It was intended to be phased in over 4 or 5 years because we didn't have the capacity in the construction industry to ramp it up day one, and all we would have done is unnecessarily put inflation into the cost of road repair. Now, also, we were made it very clear when we did that this was not a final solution. It was a movement in the right direction because, well, you know how much pushback we got just doing the
Sure.
gas tax and registration fee tax.
Mm-hmm.
So, it took us decades to get in the pickle we're in, and I know I'm just as impatient as you are when I have to try to miss these potholes. I swear I drove by a pothole the other day, and I think I saw the remnants of the hood of a Toyota Prius. That pothole was so big that the entire car was in that pothole.
Is there? Now,
it's bad. It's bad.
As you know, I live in Illinois for quite a long time, and Illinois roads are bad too. Are there any indications or reports that, people complain about the roads they use all the time, but is there any real evidence that Michigan roads are in worse shape than, say, Minnesota roads or Wisconsin roads?
No, in fact, the evidence is not that. You can pick out certain roads in those states that are better, but I can pick out certain roads in Michigan. I'm on 127 right now, headed to Lansing, and it's a delightful road, but that's because it's been recently repaired. Now, Michigan, actually, I want to put a shout-out to Michigan DOT. We are held up as a standard of performance across the nation often, but, we underfunded for decades. It's not that we don't have the right methodologies. So it's just a pickle we're in, and it's going to be a while to get out of it.
State Senator Mike Shirkey with us here on Radio Free Hillsdale, 101.7 FM. We have a couple of minutes more of your time, and we could talk about this for quite a while, so let's see how we can do. Look, we've had another just terrible, horrific school shooting in Florida that the country is addressing and having a conversation about. There are many things that might be done, I suppose, on the federal level, but when we get right down to the state level and as close as we can get to kind of keeping our schools safe, to keeping our children safe, are there any policies you think should be changed, need to be changed, to ensure the safety or better ensure the safety of our students at Michigan schools?
The answer to that is a robust yes. This Parkland incident, I characterize it as this time it's different, and I've been studying the research and all the reports about it as to why my gut tells me this time it's different. And I've concluded, Scott, that what's really different this time is that there were some pretty good measures in place,
mm-hmm.
and we had plenty of communication and indications of this young man having some difficulty and projecting openly what he was intending to do, but nobody took action. And I use this. I compare it to Flint in a strange kind of way, in that there were a lot of indicators in Flint
right.
that were ignored, and so to me that may be one of the most important underlying questions. We'll get to your legislation and policies in a moment, but underlying questions is continuing to encourage people to not be bashful about saying something and reporting something. And then, we got to hold up everybody that's within the greater community of safety, that they got to take everything serious. So, but on the policy side, yeah, there's a list of things I think that we should do, and we should spend some money. We've got a $1 billion or approaching $1 billion rainy day fund, and
mm-hmm.
I call it emergency fund, and I think it's an emergency now. So, making some of that money accessible for schools, to increase training for counselors so they're better trained to identify early indications of students that may be having trouble in sending signals. providing that funding available to schools for enhancing their building security, taking advantage of a sinking fund law that we passed last year so schools could upgrade their buildings, encouraging retired police and military folks if they want to work part-time on security at schools, and providing grants for training for teachers if they want to be a concealed carry holder within a school, and prohibiting open carry in school, because right now, in today's Michigan statute, you can lawfully open carry in schools. That's a suite of things that I think we need to advance. And then on a parallel path, we should also be talking robustly about mental health and some limited gun control issues, very limited. But there are some things that I think we can talk about.
All right, State Senator Mike Shirkey, that about runs us out of time for this week. People can find you online, SenatorMikeShirkey.com, Senator Mike Shirkey on Facebook, serving the 16th State Senate District Branch, Hillsdale, Jackson counties. Senator, we look forward to talking again next time.
Thank you, sir. Have a great day.